My name's Dr. Alice Baines, and I'm a lecturer on the Environmental Sciences course here at Brunel. So we'd just like to tell you a bit about this degree programme. Courtney, can you move the next slide, please? Thanks. So why would you want to study environmental sciences at Brunel? So similar to what Manos was saying earlier, employability is really core to what we've designed in the programme. It's quite a new degree. We had our first set of graduates this year over the summer, and so we really kind of looked at what the environmental science sector needs in their skill set and their experience and their understanding, and we kind of really kind of made the programme designed around those kind of skill sets that are required. We're also a very research intensive group, and so we all conduct research into environmental science topics, all sorts of different areas. And so the programme's very much informed by our research as well, and our understanding of kind of policies and all sorts of things that are going on in the real world that we need to kind of react to with our kind of new kind of students and everybody coming up through the system, everyone who's going to go and work in these areas. It's also really holistic. We don't ever look at things just individually, because in environmental sciences, everything's really connected. And so we kind of don't put things in little pigeonholes. We make sure that understanding is kind of really holistic, and we get the students to kind of really develop their skills and develop their understanding throughout the degree. Can I have the next slide, please? So this is us. Because environmental sciences is quite a wide topic, it's lots of different areas. We have lots of different types of skills and lots of different types of backgrounds. So we have everything from ecology and zoology and animal conservation, all the way to things like environmental chemistry. We have people who look at how pollution affects humans, but we also have people who look at how pollution affects wildlife and the environment, ecosystems and things like that. We also have public health specialists, and also people who are really interested in sustainability and about all the kind of solutions to the kind of environmental situations that we're in now. Next slide, please. So the degree course, the main degree course that we offer is a 3-year degree course, but we also have an extra year for a kind of master's course, so that builds on top of what we do in the general degree course, with some more leadership skills, a bit more in depth, kind of look into some of the topics. But we also have placements, which I'll talk a little bit more about here. So the course is quite flexible in terms of you can take longer placements or shorter placements, but also on building these skills and going in a certain direction if you're interested in that with the kind of elective topics. Next slide, please. So the way that the degree is structured is we start off with all the natural systems. So we look at things like ecology, earth system sciences, environmental chemistry, just normal kind of biology, cell biology, all these kind of things, to give you a really good understanding of the environment in its whole. You know, it's a very complex system, there's all sorts of things going on, but in a kind of very natural state. So first of all, you understand how everything is normally, how everything is naturally, how all the systems interact with each other. And then in the second year, we move on to the Anthropocene. Now, if you haven't heard of this term before, it's a kind of term that kind of describes the human impacts that we're having on the environment in a kind of geological time frame. So, you know, in the past, we would have had things like the Jurassic period. Now we're in the Anthropocene, and this is very much to do with human impacts everywhere now. So we know that there are human impacts on the environment. We know that there are human impacts on the air, with the atmosphere. We know there are human impacts on the kind of systems to do with all sorts of nutrient recycling. We know how the human impacts are on the kind of water systems. So in the same way as in the first year, you learn about all the natural systems and how they all interact and how they all work. In the second year, we look more at how humans have influenced these systems and how the environment is changing. And so in the second year, we look at things like climate change. We also look at ecosystem stresses, all the different things that have impacts on ecology and animals and plants and all these types of things. But then we also have a look at how these impact humans as well, because, you know, we're all part of the system as well. So we look at things like human health, how that's been affected by different things that we're changing in the environment. And we look at things like environmental pollution. And obviously those can impact the natural environment, wildlife and things like that, as well as people. So we have a really good look at how we've impacted the environment, probably more or less since the Industrial Revolution, when we started really engineering things and making more stuff and having much higher populations and farming in a much bigger way. Then in the third year, or the final year of the degree, we look at solutions. So there's no point in doing environmental sciences and just sitting there and thinking, oh, there's all this bad stuff that's happened or things have changed. We need to start looking at solutions. So if we're going to train, you know, our next cohort of environmental scientists to go out into work for government, go out for work for consultancies and charities and all sorts of things, all sorts of different jobs that you can work in the environmental sector. Really, we need to train you to be able to go out and fix things, make things better, stop declines in biodiversity, things like that. So we look at environmental solutions. And these are a real mixture of things. So we look at things like nature-based climate solutions, where we can hope to restore some of the systems to kind of take up some carbon or improve biodiversity, things like that. But we also look at systems, solutions to do with kind of environmental policy, sustainability, you know, things like circular economies where we recycle things more, we don't just use things and throw them away. And then if you took the additional year for the masters, it's much more about environmental practice, about actually going out and building things for real and getting much more understanding of developing yourself to go out into the work. And you can also do placements, which we'll talk about on, I think, have on the next slide, please. Oh no, talk a bit more about how we teach you. So for all of the years, there'll be things like lectures, fairly standard. Through all 3 years, we have what we call case studies. These are group work. They're very doing things work. So what we do is we have nature case studies in the first year, Anthropocene case studies second year, and then we have the solutions case studies in the third year. And the tutors give you some information on a topic, and then you kind of go away and have to do some research yourself and report back to your colleagues and your tutors. So these are very good because they're really developing the kind of skills that employers want. They want you to be able to go out and find things and report back, write reports, give presentations, things like that. We do lab work all through the 3 years. We have regular labs to learn all sorts of different techniques. We also have field work. We have field trips in the first and second year, and we also have some little mini ones as well. We have a lot of online resources that we're using, and you'll be assessed through things like systematic and critical reviews. Again, very key skill for going out into the workplace is to be able to do these types of things. Laboratory and field reports, written exams, and again, group work and practical assessments. Can I have the next slide, please? So the field work that we've done, the field trips that we've done, we've been to Tenerife. This is a really interesting place to go for all sorts of geological and ecological reasons. It's a very unique place. We also go to Dorset, and we see things like different types of rivers, how you can understand the ecology and the health of a river by looking at things like the invertebrates living in them. We also do some more local ones. We've been to see the seal colony on the Thames. which is a fantastic thing because it shows that the Thames is much less polluted than it used to be, which is a good news story. And we do all sorts of little field trips around the London area as well. So within the environmental science degree, we also offer 2 different types of placements that you can go on if that's the kind of thing you want to do, to develop your kind of work-related skills. So we have the kind of standard sandwich course, which you might have seen in other different institutions as well, where you can take a whole year to work in a different industry or a different type of job between your 2nd and your 3rd year. The other option is to take these kind of more compressed placements. So you take 2 placements, you take one between your 1st and your 2nd year, and another one between your 2nd and your 3rd year. And we kind of affectionately called this our panini course as comparison to our sandwich course. So both of these types of placements are really useful for developing skills that you'll be able to take out into the workplace. They're really good evidence of all sorts of skills that you've developed, but they're also a really good opportunity for you to learn about the types of jobs that you want to do and ones you might not want to do. And so it's a really good opportunity to get some experience and get some training in these different places. Can you move the next slide, please? So because we have a really good connection with a number of different organisations, but especially the Environment Agency, which is probably the biggest employer of environmental science people or jobs, positions in England. So the Environment Agency in England, there's another one in Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, but we have a very good connection to the Environment Agency in England. We've got opportunities for students to go out and work either for the 6-month, for the short course, short placements over the summer, but also for longer placements over for a whole year in all sorts of different areas. So the Environment Agency has all sorts of different positions. They have lots to do with things like waste, water quality, groundwater for drinking water, all sorts of things to do with understanding the wildlife that's in our rivers to make sure that we're not damaging them. People go out and do surveys of the invertebrates or the macrophytes or the fish in the rivers. So there's loads of different positions that you can do at the Environment Agency. And those jobs, if you manage to get one, they're paid jobs. So you're paid just along the same lines as anybody else who would be working there. And they're a fantastic opportunity to really get to know the employer. I used to work for the Environment Agency before I came to Brunel, and a lot of the time the students who would come on placements from all sorts of different universities would end up getting a job after their degree at the Environment Agency because they'd shown that they can develop those skills and they've kind of really got to know people there already. So it's a great networking opportunity as well. But students don't have to go to the Environment Agency. There's other places they can go to as well. We've had students come to work in the labs at Brunel if they're more interested in doing research. We've also had students coming to the STEM Centre if they're really interested in science communication, widening engagement, things like that, which is fantastic to kind of bring lots of young people into science as well, get some experience doing that. And also we've had people go out to construction industries, consultancies, things like that. So the placements are a really fantastic opportunity to really get a good understanding of the kind of jobs that are out there and the kind of things that you could do and things that you might really enjoy after your degree. Next slide, please. So our facilities, we have quite a range of different laboratories. This is partly because, as I said, we do a lot of research in our group. So we have things like chemistry laboratories to look at environmental pollutants in lots of different places, looking at kind of water pollution or soil pollution, things like that. We have tissue culture labs that can look at all sorts of things to do with how cells grow and things like that. We have all sorts of molecular biology and histopathology labs. We're really lucky at Brunel that we have a river running through our campus. So you really don't have to go very far to kind of get your feet wet. If we're doing anything, go out into the river to sample, look at different impacts that the kind of river that runs very through a very kind of industrialized or urban environment It's really just on our doorstep, so we can use that. We had students taking invertebrates and different samples out of rivers earlier this term to look at different pollutants that might be in there, including things like drugs like cocaine that might end up there from sewage effluent. And we also have a aquatics facility where we have things like fish and aquatic mollusks, things like snails, where I do research on things like that, and Whole Opus do some research on that to look at how different environmental problems might be affecting these animals. Next slide, please. So any questions relating to the environmental sciences degree, please do let me know. And you can also chat to me on Unibuddy for the rest of the day.